I'm just so aware of the power that I've given up by not speaking up and by not filing police reports, by not going forward with the state. I'm fully aware now more than ever of how disempowered that delusionally made other people believe I was. And I'm far from that individual. I'm a person that low-key kind of scares me when I have to step into an energy of protection, not just for myself, but for my own family, because I've been so wrongfully kept from being that from other family members. I'm immensely protective. And so that energy is always going to hit people before anything else does. Like, I don't even need to physically be with someone. I've had people ask me if I'm a witch before. And okay. Today I want to talk about so many things, and I'm like, don't even know where to begin. So we'll start protection and the ways in which protection sometimes aligns itself to you in your reality in a way that you can like acknowledge and then adjust, because usually these protections are happening so that you'll readjust. Like, you're on a path, you're going on a path, and if you keep going down this path, A, B, and C may happen, and while it won't keep you from your ultimate destination, it will genuinely like slow your roll. So like, there are certain things that you need to do in order to make sure that you stay on your path and all that. And I think a lot of people that are spiritual just live through, like, not just like faith-based, but it's like a faith in self. It's a faith in the feeling that you're meant to be doing what you're doing. People that align to that type of energy, it will make sense. And they probably live very much that same way, where it's like, oh, this looks bad, but it's protecting me. Well, I'm grateful that I happened to get out of my car when I did and go where I went, so that I saw what I saw, so that I could take the action that I needed to take. It's always a protection. And I believe everyone has access to this type of protection, type of love, type of kind of universal knowledge. So the first thing that I'd say was like a protective experience was finding out by way of just randomly, like, the thought process in my head was, I'm going to go out to the grove and look at that really cool apple tree. I just want to see the branches, because there's barely any leaves on the trees. So it's the best time to look at branches, especially if they're branches that are usually covered in foliage. So I go over there and I'm looking at the tree and I'm doing a TikTok. I'm like, look how cool this tree is. Just being a hippie. And something has me look to the right, and I'm just kind of sharing the branches that have fallen down, and just, it looks like no one's ever out there, but I go out there pretty often, especially in the warmer weather. I kind of just venture out there, and I love it out there. So the path that I found wasn't there like 2.5 months ago, because I was out there filming quite often, and that specific area just had a bunch of like holly on the ground, or maybe it's ivy. I don't know what it is. It looks like ivy leaves. I'm not really quite sure what plant it is. I don't think that it's ivy, but once a human walks through, there's a path that's made. And the more that somebody walks through that path, it just becomes very obvious. Like, the more it's walked through, the more obvious that path is. And the animals don't tend to do this. And they also don't tend to break branches. And I don't want to say that I know how to track, but, I had a really good daddy. He taught me all kinds of crazy things, just, in passing, because I was a daddy's girl and he was outside. I kind of just followed him around. And so it wasn't like he was always teaching me, but like, in a way he was, because I'd say, what's that? And he'd explain it and he'd teach me about it. And so I've learned by way of just being curious, kind of basic things about like tracking or looking at certain animals on your property. Like, I think that's a pretty basic thing for a lot of girls that are in Oregon or Washington or anywhere in the country, really. If you're a country girl and you had a dad around, you probably learned some country stuff, right? I actually don't know that much as most girls. I know how to shoot, but I haven't gone out and practiced really. Like, I could hit my target. I'm really good at that, but I just haven't, I'm not like some of the country girls. So I'd say I'm more of a city girl than country girl, but when I come to the country, I can survive. I digress. So that inkling to be like, hey, go look at your apple tree ended up turning into me filing a police report and, having police come out a few times to look at the property and to check things out. And then in a cool way, I've connected with my neighbors, because I wasn't really a city girl, and that I'm like, well, I'll just leave my neighbors alone. Like, I'll just leave them alone. They have a big country property for a reason. They probably won't be bothered. So I was able to kind of connect with a lot of people around me that I hadn't, I knew in passing, because we've all been here for a while, but now we have like each other's numbers and stuff. And I think that's cool too. So like brought to me community in a way that I wasn't expecting. And like a lot of these guys, like they like to hunt and they love their guns. And some of them are past, they've served in various branches of the military. And so I feel safer now. And I don't know if whatever was happening on my property, it was like meant to like scare me, but I feel very blessed and protected. Like, things always seem to come to me in a way that helps me see a full picture. And I think it might scare some people, because sometimes I see a picture that others don't think others can see. I think I see pictures, like a full picture, when others probably aren't able to, or maybe they're not supposed to. Like, I just see things a little bit more clearly, and I'm really good at patterns. And once I recognize a pattern, I make sure to take note of it, and I document things. I think a lot of millennials are like that. I was watching somebody's meme somewhere, and they were talking about millennials and how we're just like, we would have all been incredible spies. Like, the government really didn't take advantage of us, and that we had so many spy movies. I mean, I grew up with Harriet the Spy, and Michelle Trachtenberg was, and Harriet the Spy, and she's passed now. And I think a lot of millennials were just so heartbroken when she passed, because a lot of us were like Harriet the Spy fans. When I was 11 and 12, I don't know what kind of box it was. It was an old-fashioned box. It was like a big square wooden box, and it wasn't big enough to hold a hat. Maybe it was a box for records. It was about that same dimensions of that, so maybe it was like a box to hold records in, but it had like a little handle. And my grandmother gave it to me, and I had like a flashlight, and I had like a black light, because my dad was awesome, but he also worked on the movies, so he had a lot of stuff that people didn't normally have lying around. And so he had like a black light, and I had my notepad, and I had a magnifying glass, and I was a spy. Okay, you couldn't tell me different. I was a spy. And so I think that has kind of always just stayed, like, that's always just been a thing, right? Like, for me, it's like, okay, well, now I have to document. Now I have to pay attention. I really need to wash my hair. It's a hair wash day, but it's a lot of things have gone on. So that happened the other day. I don't know, it was a week ago now, a week and a half ago. I don't know. I did a video about it, and I was just kind of emotionally charged, and I decided I'm not going to post it. That's good that I got it out, but it doesn't need to go online, because I'm not really that upset about it. And then today, I was sitting at a stop sign for a while, and there were cars coming, and I thought I had enough time, and I didn't. And luckily no one hit me, but there was a cop right behind the car when I pulled out. It was like instant karma. Like, I'm talking instant karma. Like, I'm such a good person that when I do anything I'm not supposed to, this shit's instant. So I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. That makes sense. They were a lot closer than I thought they were. And that also leads me to, I need to get glasses. And I've been struggling with reading the Bible. Like, the text in the Bible is like relatively small. Like, if I wake up in the morning and I immediately try to read a passage, it's blurry. And I'm like doing this, and I'm like trying to read the words, and it's just like a whole situation. So that kind of solidified that, like, I'm not seeing things at the same level. I need to go get glasses. I'm going to go get glasses. So there were several things that happened today that really helped. So he pulls me over, and he was in one of those Mustangs. Okay, nobody was walking away without a ticket. So I don't try to get out of tickets, but I was like, listen, I'm sorry. I was sitting there and I was a little stressed, and there's something in me that just said go. I got scared, and I went, and I thought I had enough room. I mean, he didn't hit me, but that was definitely too close. I deserve that ticket. Yes, sir. Here's my license. And he said, do you have the insurance? And the insurance that I gave him was actually the wrong insurance, and the right insurance was in the middle console, but it's like a truck, and I forget that a middle console even exists, right? Like, the fuck? So I'm moving that to the other one. I'm not going to remember that, especially my nervous system. Even when I'm not doing anything wrong, like, I get so stressed when police are involved, and I just try to be very respectful and do whatever they need, but they can also kind of be pushy, and they can kind of push over a little bit. And so I think he recognized my stress, and I was raised by cops, so I feel like I can confidently say this. Like, some of them just do get drunk off power. Some of them get drunk off of the effect they have on people, and it's not like they're bad people. They may have just just been disempowered in certain ways in their life. And like here I am, like psychologically trying to break it down. I don't know if that was it, or if it was just that when he looked up my license, I didn't show up in a database anywhere, even though I had a physical license and it was physically good. So, and he's like, why don't you have a real ID? And I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to tell you guys why I don't have a real ID. I don't have a real ID because I thought I might get my youth back and randomly fly to Vegas. This isn't going to happen. Would randomly fly to Vegas, and then I could flash my Nevada ID and get into a club as a local and try to mentally relive my old days of being 20 in Vegas. And it was for some simple, I don't know what I'm forgetting. Just anyways, so I have a Nevada license. I've had a Nevada license since I moved back, and they're always like, get a new one. And I'm like, bro, no, I lived there for so long. Like I feel like I shouldn't have to give up my local rights. They make you wait like 7 years before they even consider you to be a local over there. And even then 7 years is iffy. They're real picky about it. Ask anybody in Vegas, they'll tell you. They might even tell you it's 10 years, which I think is bullshit, but I did pass the 10 years. So either way, I digress. So he gave me a no operator's license, saying I didn't have a legal license, which I do. It's legal until like 2028 or some shit. It's legal for a while. It's just in Nevada. It's a Nevada license. So I'm like, oh fuck. You mean I'm not in the... So I didn't find this out until I called the DMV, because I was like, are the laws different? And I'm misunderstanding, and I have been illegally driving, and I should have a real ID. Is that like a legal law? You have to have a real ID to drive? Or is it just because I was under the impression that it was you just needed a real ID or a passport to fly, and it didn't carry over into states? Because what about the people that drive in different states? Did they just have a real ID in every state? Maybe I'm misunderstanding it. I think maybe, and I'll happily pay the ticket, but I am going to go contest it, because in my eyes, I have a valid license. I have a valid operator's license, and I don't want that to go on to my driving record, because I have a really clean driving record. I have a really, really clean record in general. So I'm a freaking good girl, and all I do is sit at home, mind my own business, you know? So when something like this happens, at first I was really frustrated, and then I got home and called the DMV, and I was just like, can you reiterate the laws for me? Was he correct? And I was technically, this is like a technicality, like the license is good, but technically you're supposed to be driving. I mean, because they get people on technicalities all the time, which would be so fucked for the state to do, but whatever, we're not going to put it across them. Anyway, I digress. So he's like, no, you should be fine. He goes, you had the physical license with you? And I said, yeah, I had the physical license with me. I gave it to him. It's legally valid in Nevada. And he said, well, okay, let me just look up your license and see what it says. This is when, and now I'm doing this video mainly because protection, all right? So somebody's going to see this video that's in Nevada that needs to see it. They could not find me in the database anywhere. And the reason this is because Nevada had a DMV specific data breach. I think it was, I can't remember what fucking year it was. I'm not going to look it up now, but it might have been last year in August. I remember it was August. I feel like it might have been last year. And what I had been told from other locals that are still there, that I know, that they recovered everything was fine and everyone was good. Them not finding me in the database lets me know that they weren't able to recover everything. And that also lets me know there are probably a lot of other law-abiding people who aren't getting, pulled over. They aren't having their license checked with the DMV. They have no reason to have it checked, and you're not in the database. So like, this is kind of like just like if you're in Nevada, or if you know someone in Nevada, like tell them to call the DMV. And here's the thing, I tried to call the DMV for hours today, and I kept getting lines are busy, and that's not the verbiage they use, but it was basically the lines are busy and you can go in or you can go online. And so I'm not going to fly over to Vegas just to deal with this. I'm going to go to the DMV tomorrow and I'll handle it from there. But if you're in Nevada or you know someone in Nevada, have them go into the DMV, check their license and stuff, because I feel like they didn't get everyone's stuff back. I don't want to freak people out, but I'm being kind of guided. Like, this is a really kind of a serious thing that people will want to handle sooner than later, and I'm just lucky I have my physical license, so I can just take that in, and there's proof of that, and I should be able to get an Oregon license or ID, whatever the fuck they call it. I think it's just another way for them to tax us. So I'm not convinced they don't have tracking devices in these IDs, so I might just leave mine in the car. But yeah, I don't know. Lots of protection, because if I hadn't been pulled over, I never would have known. Because again, I'm a law-abiding girl. I'm just a good girl. You know, I used to be kind of naughty, but that was me fighting the truth of the people I was around. And I know that now, that I was doing everything in my power, drinking, partying, doing everything in my power to avoid the fact that the people I was surrounding myself with were keeping me in a loop that I didn't want to be in. And that's a whole other episode. But yeah, I'm really grateful for my protection. And then also, I was filming a video last night, and I don't know that I'm going to put it up because I still was I think there was, I don't know, if I get emotionally charged and I just don't feel like, I don't think there's a problem with showing an authentic truth themselves, but I have a lot of people that are watching me solely to see if they've gotten a rise out of me or to see if they've harmed me. Like, it gets them off. It's really weird kink. So I am not going to post some things. There are going to be some things that I withhold. That doesn't mean I won't post them later. Because again, documentation is really, really important. And so having, 2 hours worth of video where I'm going into detail and talking about the documentation and then having that, saved on the cloud and all these places, that's good. That's always good to have. But when it comes to the videos that I'm posting moving forward, I really don't want it to be, when I share about myself, I want to share in a way that's conducive for growth. This channel was originally created to ensure that my teenager had the truth, and it's shifted a little bit. Not from that, but it's just become something more. And it's like, yes, that truth needs to be there. But also, this has become sort of like a dedication to myself to have the courage to say the things that are hard, because people talk about saying the hard things out loud, and then there's actually saying the hard things out loud. And while it might be triggering various groups or whatever it is doing to people that are unhealed, what it's doing for me is it's unlocking and accessing parts of myself that I had shamed, that I had made feel guilty for being who I was, when in reality I just needed to tell my truth and allow those chips to fall where they may, because so many lies have been told about me up to that point, before I started this channel, that not telling the truth and not saying, this is what's happening, became so much worse. Because at first it just started as like, okay, I'm not going to fight this fight. I'm not going to fight this imaginary fight. I'm not going to do it. I'm not. And then it turned into my silence becoming a springing board for narratives to come forward. How did your hair get on my teeth? For narratives to come up that were so far from the truth, but because I wasn't around, I was actively in another state, working every day to try to better myself and grow and learn, which is why I'm so good at what I do as a photographer now. See, people can say all these things, but if you look at the track record of how long I've been working in my industry to grow, to get to a space, to piss off some men because I said the wrong thing. The people upset with me in my hometown, this tiny cute little town, they are not the only ones upset with me. I have pissed off some large groups because they thrive in the facade, and I didn't know who I was putting under the bus when I was highlighting certain behaviors. So I'm really careful now about what I get myself into when I talk about things. That's why I stay to myself. That's why I talk here. Because I've made the mistake of pissing off people who have a lot of power. It's not funny, but it is kind of, because it's like, just little old me. Like, it's like that Taylor Swift song, I've never had the access to the type of things that a lot of people that have attacked me have had. And so I always keep it moving. And so my ability to step into the abundance and success that I have done as a photographer is only further proof of the 20 plus years I scraped by as a model. And the reason I scraped by is because I didn't do the shady things to get ahead. I kept my soul intact. My soul is still intact. Bitch might be a little fragmented, for sure. For sure, I could use some help with my soul fragmentation, but it's still there and it's still mine. I've never sold that shit. Okay, I've never even had any work done because I believed that would change my trajectory spiritually. People were like, oh, well, don't you? I always wanted boobs done. Are you kidding me? I always wanted big boobs. Still mad God didn't give. God's got a sense of humor. Let me tell you what, because I definitely would have used my boobs for evil, for sure. When I was in my 20s, I used to say the first thing I'm going to do when I get my boobs is I'm going to go buy a gallon of milk. And people were like, how are you going to do that? And I was like, listen, first off, you have to pick the right store. Because if you go into a Safeway, you're getting arrested. But if you go into like a little podunk shop like the one in Lyons, Oregon, and like, you know, a dude your age is working, you could probably get some milk with your boobs. And so that's my thought process as a 20-year-old. Now, as a 38-year-old, I'm just like, you fucking jackass. But it made so much sense in my 20s, and it's hilarious. So I'm happy to share the thought process because it's just so far removed from who I am now. You know, it's just, I was a real free spirit before my frontal lobe developed. And again, what I said in another video that I don't know if I'm gonna have it go live or not, because I would have to like edit a lot of shit. I'm just real lazy. But Europe is a lot different than America in that, you know, they have like nude beaches, and it's very normalized for full families to go to a nude beach and just hang out nude all day together with other families. And when Americans hear this, they literally lose their mind. Like they lose their mind. And the reason this is because Americans have been taught to sexualize nudity. And I don't know if it's just in America. I can't speak for like the UK and other spaces like that, but I speak solely for America because I've grown up here. And then I went and traveled in other places where I was a bikini model. And then some of the places were optional clothing. And it was in a really beautiful, exotic place. So I don't like tan lines, all right? You see a different side of the world when you travel out of your own country. And a lot of times it's really enlightening. And so I never had this idealism of like, oh, nudity equates sexuality or something like that. And I think that is why a lot of men have problems with like their women in, you know, bikinis or, you know, online at all, is because their men are equating, you know, the men that are like, don't do that. Those men equate less clothing with somehow being promiscuous or sexual. They don't view the body as solely a human body. It's got so many other meanings to it. And so that's one thing I love about Europe, is that they don't sexualize everything. And, you know, I won't go into things much more because I think as a country, we all know where America lands on certain things. And so I don't ever want to talk about things that are going to end up having my channel pulled, when this channel is supposed to be a way for me to share my truth and who I am as a person. But also I'd like to share value that is intellectually going to move people's needles forward. You know, like I've never been good at brain rot. And so that's another thing too, is that like I'm looking at all my videos through a lens of, is this more brain rot or is this more value? Is this more Real Housewives of whatever fucking city, or is this like more Gaia? You know, is this something that people will feel rejuvenated from? And what is the intention behind this? And so just everything I do is incredibly intentional. And that's why today was so crazy for me at first, because I was like, I never do that. I usually sit and just sit. I never just pull out in front of people. Why did I pull out? And then when I called the DMV and found out what happened, it was like protection. It was so protection. And I'm going, thank you so freaking much, because how else would I have found out? And it was so wild. I was sad at that stop sign, chilling. No hurries at all with my dog, you know? So, and then it was like, go. And I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. And so when he was like, why'd you do that? I was like, I got scared. And I was like, that's not going to make sense, because I can't explain to a cop who's got me pulled over that like I heard I needed to go, because that's going to sound like I'm fucking schizophrenic or some shit. Like they look at things logically. They're not looking at things from a spiritual consensus. But now I understand. Glad I didn't say anything, but now I understand, right? And so I wanted to share all this because it's like, not only do I understand, but I can make a video about it, and maybe somebody who's from Nevada is going to see it, and maybe that'll help them. So this is like, for me, a ripple effect. How can this be a positive ripple effect? And I want to lay that foundation out for any 16-year-olds, not just my own, but any 16-year-old. What ripple effects are you leaving in the world? Are you accessing people in a way that's going to leave them traumatized and have PTSD, or are you uplifting people when they don't have that, or when they could really use that? Are you just doing that? Because how we choose to live in this world is how this world will react and respond to us, because we're teaching the world how we deserve to be treated by how we treat others. It's like this boomerang effect. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. It's one of the reasons that you see really, really good people that age really well, because you don't have, I feel like it's like a third eye chakra thing. I think it starts in the third eye. Like people would say it starts in your foundation, but I believe it really starts in your third. So my nervous system is shot. And I've been sitting here for like the last 5 minutes trying to finish my sentence about the third eye chakra because I was really on a roll, and having to stop for like 15 minutes and move everything over completely threw me off, and I have no idea what I was going to say. I don't know where I was going with that. So apparently that was a message that did need to go out. And that's, again, something that I'm dealing with. Like, it's not just I'm dealing with, but it's like, if you have a thought in your mind and you're like making a video and suddenly you can't find it, that message isn't for right now. It might be something that like later on, but right now it doesn't need to be shared. And so it's kind of how I feel about those videos too, is there were some things that I got really raw. And don't get me wrong, I want to stay as authentic and raw as possible on this channel, but also my feminine rage for the things that I'm experiencing will bleed in through that. And there has to be a line. I have to really be careful and toe that line to ensure that it doesn't bleed over into just emotional. And so when I was first sharing about the things that I found on my property, I was really upset. And the video that I filmed last night was kind of ironic. We had another really big atmospheric storm coming through. And I want to talk about Washington in just a second, so let me finish this. The atmospheric storm came through, and so I was trying to speak on things last night, and I was saying, I kind of feel like the fact that this was pointed out to me where I was able to find footprints and things lets me know that I was pointed in this direction, like maybe right after it happened or like a day after it happened. And that's not really something that would have normally happened. But my dad and my grandma both passed away. My grandma actually passed away in this house. And so I feel like the amount of protection that I have for my family is really, really strong. And so while I was talking about, I said, I kind of feel like that might have just been my dad pointing me to it. And maybe he's trying to like kindly warn anyone who might be watching thinking that they can come into my life to just not do that, to like leave me alone. And I'm not kidding you. The minute I said that, the power went out in my entire house. And then I'm sitting there for like 2 minutes like, oh no, because I didn't have any candles up here. I was just sitting here in the dark like, what do I do? Like, Schmur, get up, go find a candle. But I totally was like, like it blacked out and I blacked out. I was like, what do I do? And so maybe I'll cut that into this video where you can see me going, oh no, like the part that I was saying about him just kind of warning to leave my family and my property alone. Because let me explain something. The fact that I'm speaking now should point one very serious thing out, which is I've been given no other opportunity. Like, I've been given no other outlet that would make sense and be healthiest for everyone involved. My only choice is to now bring this to a public space and then hope that I will finally be heard. And I'm not projecting great results. And I am a master manifester, so that's probably playing into a lot of what I'm dealing with right now. But my faith was unconditional. Nothing could break our relationship. Nothing could come between us. He knows the truth. And then when I realized that what was happening was that I was basically being set up, it was like watching a really bad movie play out. I was like, well, shit. Anything I say or do can be used against me if I do it privately. I'm going to have to make this public. I'm going to have to just divulge everything that has just been the hardest truths about my life, just in hopes that something will land enough for him to pay attention to what's actually happening. Because see, when you're young, man, the people I allowed into my life when I was in high school, I just really wanted to belong. That's always been my problem. I've always just wanted to belong. And in high school especially, I just wanted to belong. And that wasn't happening. And I'm grateful I had the daddy that I did, because he did open my eyes to a lot of things, but he didn't say it. Just roll my eyes because it's so annoying. He so firmly believed in karma and so firmly believed that if someone needed to learn something, it had to come to them on their own time. He never wanted to be how do I explain this? It's Star Trek. Star Trek, how they have first general order, right? Which is like, if they come into a planet that is pre-warp, meaning that we would be considered pre-warp, where they don't have the ability to warp through the galaxy and get to another place like light years away. They're not allowed to disclose who they are, what they do. And my dad was very much like that when it came to the spiritual realm and spirituality in general, metaphysics, physics in general. The man was a genius, and he did gatekeep a lot. He gatekeeped so much shit, but he was a gatekeeper. That was part of his path. And so cursed him a little bit, not in a bad way, but just, why didn't you fucking tell me? Because I found his tarot deck years after he died, and it was in finding that deck that I began my journey. I guess would be, in tarot it's called the Fool's Journey, and so technically me finding those cards put me into my fool's journey. And just look it up on YouTube, I'm not going to go into it. So finding that, and I was just really mad at the time because I couldn't understand the necessity of the timing. And so there's part of me that's like, oh my god, no, oh my god, no, damn it. I mean, my dad was pretty powerful on a physical, not on a physically powerful, but energetically, he could stop an entire room just by walking in. He's actually the guy, if you watch Dead by Sunset, if you're old enough to remember that movie, or if you want to go watch it, there's a part in the movie, I think it's 45 minutes in or something like that, where there's a big, tall, 6'4" dude, he's maybe been 6'3", super tan, long black hair, tattoos all over him. That's my daddy. And he was just working on the set of the movie, and the director saw him and he was like, oh my god, he looks like what we've been looking for. And so they just threw him in. I don't know if he was paid for it, if they just tossed him in. Back then they were probably just tossing people in without all of the technicalities, but also he was cool, so he probably would have just hopped in. So he's in Dead by Sunset, and if you want to see how big and scary my daddy was, just go look at that part in the movie where he's walking into the bar, because he's big and scary. But yeah, his energy was intense in the physical, and now he doesn't have a physical body holding him back. And he was kind of like a dragon already. I feel like if dragons are a thing, and I believe they are, and they're in a different dimension, and they have dragon riders, I feel like my dad's in that dimension, and he's low-key riding dragons. And I'm just gonna roll with that, because that fucking sounds way more fun than being up. Not that he's not in heaven. Maybe he's in he's in heaven and they ride dragons. Who knows? We don't know. Even crazier than that. I digress. So all he had that was holding him back, and before he passed, was his physical body, and his physical body failed him. He got cancer. So his spirit, his energy, that shit didn't die. I feel like that went back to the ethers and got even more strong. So while I'm talking about this, and I mention him again in that same video, the one where the lights went out, so I just think my dad wants whoever is bothering me to leave me alone. This window gets hit by a tree branch. Here's the crazy thing. There are no trees around this fucking window for it to get hit by a branch. So somebody was pow, against the window. And I'm not saying that that's what happened, but at that exact time, some debris, something flew and hit a window that is, do you know the odds of something flying up and hitting that window? They're so low. I don't even know the mathematical odds. I just know that it shouldn't have happened, and it did. And it did right when I was saying my daddy just really wants y'all to leave me alone. My power dying right as I was saying the timing of that, and then it going out. So the video, the message that I'm stay out of our property. He's not playing. He is not playing. Anything that my daddy might have said to some people when he was sick with cancer and literally on radiation drugs, you have to know that's not where his energy lies now. And his energy, it's the most important thing is protecting his family, and anyone who has put his baby girl through harm is not seen as his family, and they are not protected. So I would not be surprised if the people that are attempting to try to cause fear with me are in fact dealing with a lot of issues. Do I need to reiterate it? Because it's first the power, then that thump. I'm really grateful that I made all of the mistakes I did when I was younger. And I really want to reiterate to any teenagers, any teens, not just my own, but any teenagers. The mistakes you make when you're young, they quite literally shape who you are. And sometimes we make mistakes that are absolutely terrible, that we wish for years and years and years and years and years, and maybe our whole life, that we can make different ones. But it is those mistakes that we make that quite literally shape and build out our lives. And it is who we choose to be after we make those mistakes. So we're all human, so I don't know if we're all human. I don't know if that applies in 2025. I don't even know if saying we all bleed red applies in 2025 anymore, you know? AI Atlas coming in. I digress. Humans can only be human. We make human mistakes, and that's how we learn as humans. That's what we do. So it's kind of our thing, you know? And I'm really grateful that once I got to a certain point of mistake making, I really only made ones that I always thought were in the best interest for everyone. Even my initial choice of just blindly trusting the man I loved with the most precious thing ever. That blind trust, and then the betrayal of that trust, it shaped me. It shaped who I am. I've been celibate for 7 years now. 6 years? I think it's 6 years. Single for 7. Celibate for 6. It's over 6 now. I think I was at 5 last time I mentioned it. It's been about 6 years. That probably wouldn't have occurred had I not had such a deeply gouged wound from the father of my child. But also that wound caused me to make other choices that, you know, now that my frontal lobe is developed, you couldn't catch me dead in the bikinis I used to model. I find them sometimes, and they're so small. It's like this much string. And my brain doesn't know who that person was. And then, last warning, that's all I'm going to say. I was trying to type something up in TikTok, and my phone wigged out. You know how sometimes it'll freak out and it'll stop typing? And it stopped typing for like 4 minutes. And I'm a very patient girl because that was like a 7-minute thing. And it was like doing the captions while it was rendering. And it's just, sometimes if you exit out of it and try it again, it won't do the captions. And so I just have to sit and wait, right? I don't know if anyone else knows what I'm talking about. But anyways, so I'm sitting here and I'm waiting for it to render. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll let the captions render. And I go in and I'm trying to do the text. And so this is why I'm assuming that it's wigging out, right? The first word, like I'm typing, the words that I typed was like yesterday. So why who I believe is messing with me, the full last name, full government last name was what was typed out and stayed there. And then I was like, what the fuck? And then I deleted it because I'm like, I'm trying to get, you know, when you're trying to post a TikTok and you're trying to get all the words on the thing and it's just a whole situation. I was just like, stop, come on, just work. So then the next words, when it wigged out again, erased everything I wrote, the next words were, I warned. And then my phone stopped wigging out. So when I say that like my spirit team, like my daddy died. Okay, my daddy is my angel. He was terrifying in real life. Please don't misconstrue the physical as something that's safe for people who don't understand how the spiritual world works and doesn't understand how people who are really, really protected works. It's not good for your health. I'm not personally threatening anyone. I'm just saying I'm getting really tired of like praying to God and other people to just like hold back. And so I kind of am now going to start praying to God. Please give these people enough to focus on that they don't have room or time to focus on me. Please give them something in their reality so that they are not focused on me. Whatever that is, that's it's dealer's choice. I don't care. Make them so busy with other things that they don't have the privilege to bother me. That's what I'm praying now. Not please protect them. No. Have the day you deserve, ma'am or sir. I gotta go wash his hair. I actually really need to do the bleach, but the longer I wait on the bleach, the less I'll have to do on the New Year's hair. You know, the girls have the New Year's hair. I don't really care. But it is getting pretty grown out. It's not quite at 2 fingers yet, you know? Like I can... I'm being lazy. Just like those videos. I don't want to edit them. So yeah, there's a lot of protection in my reality. And again, I want to say, when you live intentionally and you literally move in a way that would, because for a very long time I was disconnected from God. I was told by like my own mother that God wouldn't want a sinner, you know, like there are things that I've been told and I was like, oh, he doesn't want to talk to me. That dude will hate me. Like I was there like, Jesus doesn't want to hear from me. They won't understand. And that's a blatant lie, because look at the type of people Jesus used to hang out with. They were not cream of the crop for the community. They were the ones that the community threw rocks at. So I found my own way back to a space where I literally say, I let go and let God. It is not in my hands. I give this to God. And that's really new for me. And it feels unnatural because for so long in my life, I was like, again, well, I'm a sinner, probably for sure going to hell. And it's like I wasn't able to see like you are making decisions to ensure that you can keep moving forward. The people that are judging you have the privilege of never having to make these decisions. So their judgment doesn't stand on you. And I needed to learn that. And it wasn't until I learned that I began to really stand on my boundaries. So yeah, my path back to the church has been interesting because I believe there's a lot of things that are unhealthy and like the grand scheme of just the standpoint of the church, right? Like, fuck, all those women that were calling the church for formula and being turned down by the church. That's not godly, you know? And so for me to talk about it, I even kind of have a hard time because there are going to be people like me with my logic that's like, how are you going to be a church and not do what you can, even if it's not something you do, you know? So there's a dismantling of a lot of things that are happening. And while that's occurring, I'm also finding my way to that space of unconditional love. And it's interesting because I'm able to see the difference, right? I'm able to see what it's like to really act through God. How would that unconditional love look like if you were dealing with another person? And I fall short so fucking often. Wow, I fall short. Like there are some times where I'm like, I could have handled that so much better, you know? And then I will take that into my next thing because I'm still human. I'm a woman in America and I'm dealing with a lot of trauma as well. And that's never an excuse. Your trauma shouldn't spill over and burn other people ever. But I do have to be gentle with myself, like we all do, you know, depending on what you've gone through. I mean, if there's trauma there, just you have to be gentle with yourself, but also actively make a choice to try to better that thing about yourself that you may are like, wow, I could do better, you know. That's our responsibility as humans anywhere that we are, you know. It doesn't really matter if we're Canada or America, like that should be universal. So I feel like I want to reiterate, I've never looked like what I've gone through. And the reason that is because I constantly look for ways to see the glass half full. Call it a perk of who I am or call it a con, depending on who you are. But my ability to see things in a way that's like, well, from this, I can do this. Now that this happened, I have all this more awareness and knowledge. And so it's never like anything that comes into my reality and my vicinity. It's never a loss. I just have to find the lesson. Like what's the meaning behind it? And what do I need to learn so I don't have to experience this again? Especially if it's one that I really don't want to experience. Like I get so stressed out with cops and I was raised by cops and I'm such a good girl. I don't do anything. They love me because I'm just a good citizen. I don't do anything. And I always make sure that, are you warm enough? You got hand warmers, you know, like a mom. But just, I know how things have changed, you know, and it's kind of scary. And I'm currently looking into maybe finding somewhere else to exist. And that's kind of a scary thing too, because I've never in my 38 years of being alive, never in my life have I been like, I'm going to move out of America. But things have gotten a little, I can't align with it. I don't know how many humans can. And it's like having any heart or soul is a special type of torture because you just can't do anything. Like the things that are happening with Washington right now, there's acres, or I think it was closer to 61,000 acres that are like underwater. I had to ask ChatGPT to kind of like do a guesstimate because I don't think they actually have the numbers yet. But I was just trying to understand how vast of a vicinity, like 5 trillion gallons. 5 trillion gallons of water has been dropped on the Pacific Northwest since this atmospheric river started. And like I don't think the media is even covering it. And it's like, I don't think people understand they're in a state of emergency. And this would have been us in Oregon. Salem would have been underwater if it had just hit a little closer to us and not so close to Seattle. This could have been Salem. And so my heart is just breaking because there's nothing I can do. and I'm not in a space where I could just go out and send money, and now I got these tickets too. Like, these tickets are, hopefully they're not too bad, but damn, they're racking them up. I have to contest those and hopefully I won't have to pay all of them, because I do deserve one. The other two are questionable. The other two violations are questionable, and I don't want that on my driving record, because again, I'm now looking at, well, if I don't feel safe and I feel like I need to stay home all the time, and I feel like I might be a victim in my own home, then maybe it's time for me to find a new home. That it's just common sense. But I think a lot of us as Americans were taught that America is the best and you just stay here. And it's like, I believed that for a long time and I felt that way, but the school systems did their job. I'll say that, because I don't want to talk badly about my country. I love my country. I think we're in a shifting point, and it's a melting pot right now. And nervous system wise and mentally, and to live a peaceful and healthy life, I don't think I can stay here. Just, having to file a police report about someone coming onto my private property alone, like, that's just a perfect example. And it's not like I could go to like another state and these problems would stop, because, well, so, I'm now looking at becoming an immigrant in another country, and that's not something I ever thought. Like, I joked. When I went to Jamaica, I joked. I was like, who do I need to marry to stay here? I would like to stay here, please. But I mean, I don't know anybody that goes to Jamaica and just try to stay there. They have laws. They have Jamaican laws that keep Americans from doing that, by the way. You can't do that. I tried. I definitely tried. But I didn't try to stay in Canada. They were like, you can be here for 6 months. And I'm like, sir, it is cold. You don't have dispensaries. I'm going home. So I've always been very grateful to be able to travel to other countries and see other cultures and just experience different parts of the world. That's always been a beautiful, amazing thing. I mean, I started flying alone when I was 5. And as a mother, I have specific thoughts about that. I don't think I'd ever would have let my child on a plane alone at 5, no matter if it was the 80s. I just wouldn't have done it. That's also a difference with my mother and I, is that I never would have let him do that alone. So, but yeah, I've been flying alone since I was 5. Like, Southwest would give those little, yeah. So anyway, this whole thing was just about protection and like intentional living. And like, I live so intentionally that to get my attention, it had to have been something like me getting pulled over and getting, a moving violation, because how else would I have known that, because I was like, well, wait a minute, I need to call the DMV and see if my license is legal. And I'm fairly sure it is. I'm going to go to the DMV tomorrow and I'll do an up-to-date video. So in case anybody's wondering, you guys don't have to go to the DMV. I'll do it for you. But yeah, really grateful. Like, I don't have anger or animosity. I have gratitude, because the people that were put in place to, destroy me, they were just like the training wheels for so much more that life is about to throw at me, I feel like. And I'm finalizing the chapter here, and that's an interesting thing to do, it's a scary thing. So I don't know a lot of people that are like, oh, fuck it, I'll just go to another country. Like, it's one thing to go to another state, just to go to another country. Like, I'm learning a new language right now. I'm learning about different currency, which is so different from American currency. And the English language is so different from just all languages, because we have like our language is cut in half to like the amount of syllables, and I guess it would be words. Like, I learned this from Sanskrit, because I think if I can remember right, I might be wrong, but I feel like this is right. I did study for a long time for my yoga stuff. I just haven't talked about it, but I feel like Sanskrit is one of the languages that's like, if you know the basics of a language, you can learn Sanskrit relatively easy because of the way that it's set up as a language. But I also don't know enough about other languages to explain it further, so I apologize about giving you that tidbit of information and just leaving you with it. But yeah, I don't know if the thing with my property was meant to have an effect of fear, but all it did was connect me even deeper to the community around here. And now all of the dads who have daughters and wives, they're all aware of the fact that no one should be on my property. And some of them said they'd shoot first. So take that as you will. I don't know that they're allowed to, but we're in the country. So yeah, I hope that people understand that making good choices isn't just like a, oh, God will smite you thing. I mean, you can believe whatever you want if that's the incentive needed to be a better person. But I live a relatively good life because I'm a good person, and I don't do things that are outwardly trying to harm others. And I actually go out of my way to try to uplift others, because I know what it's like to be completely on your own and never have anyone in your corner, to just always have to uproot and uplift yourself. I am a nice person because I know what it feels like to have people not be kind to you. It isn't some performative act, and people who are performative or fake or they're narcissistic, whatever it is, they will always assume that those of us who are genuinely kind are being performative, because that's what they are. So there's a lot of projection happening, and I just really want to be left alone so that I can continue to share my truth that doesn't have anything to do with like updated current events of things that are happening to me. Because once I can get through like my own traumas, then I can move forward with other things and offer help to other people. But I'm no good to anyone until I get through these emotional, I would say, detours, because again, I had to film like 2 hours worth of videos before I got to a space here where I feel good enough to share, and it's not like an emotional outburst. I wasn't emotionally outbursting, but it was like my feminine rage was there. She's been checked, and I'm just so aware of the power that I've given up by not speaking up and by not filing police reports, by not going forward with the state. I'm fully aware now more than ever of how disempowered that delusionally made other people believe I was. And I'm far from that individual. I'm a person that low-key kind of scares me when I have to step into an energy of protection, not just for myself, but for my own family, because I've been so wrongfully kept from being that from other family members. I'm immensely protective. And so that energy is always going to hit people before anything else does. Like, I don't even need to physically be with someone. I've had people ask me if I'm a witch before, and it turns out that several of the people that were asking in the past all had one thing in common, and they were intentionally working behind the scenes to try to smear my name. And then they learned very quickly how energetic clapbacks work. And because, again, I'm saying I have a lot of families past in this life that are like rooting on me to get through, to do things, right? Like, it's not just me. It's like it's a team effort. And so if you have somebody that's like fucking with your team member, imagine how the other team members are going to feel when they've already done their work. They've passed the baton, and now it's my turn to run, and somebody's fucking stopping me from running. Energetically, they don't like that. And so energetically, things will happen that will seem kind of spooky, or out of the windows fucking getting hit, lights going off at the right time. Those are warnings. Those are signs. Listen to those signs. Make good decisions. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later.